Hello and welcome. This is going to be the weekly reading and look ahead for the week of October 2nd, 2023. This is again for all signs as usual. First thing we're going to do is we're going to take a look at the astrology for the week ahead, see what's going on in the stars for us this week. And then we're going to move ahead to the reading. So I'm going to pull 4 or so cards, get a message from Spirit, from my team, and see what they have to add to the reading, so together it'll make a fuller picture. For those of you that don't care about the astrology and just want to get ahead to the cards, there are timestamps down below. You can go ahead and use those, skip right to the reading, and I'll see you there. Otherwise, for those of you that want to hear the astrology, here we go. This week, as this month, really, the whole theme of this month really is starting this week, and it's all about letting go. Now, I know when we talked about in the monthly letting go and purging and all that, it's kind of, I don't want to say cliche or whatever, but it's like, okay, so what do I do with that? Okay, yeah, this is a week or a month or whatever of letting go and purging, but what does that mean and how do I do that? Now, like, the hard thing, unfortunately, with that statement is it's pretty personal to every single one of us. So I really can't, in a general reading, say, okay, so we're letting go and we're purging, and it's going to be, relationships for you, and love for you, and career for you, and, that job over there for you. Like, it's really kind of hard to do that in a personal reading, and that's why I always stress to make sure that you use the links that I give you guys to have this information, to look up your birth chart just to get a general sense of it. Now, I mean, there's the free tools that I show you guys are only going to give you so much, right? And especially if you don't know what you're looking at. I mean, the basics of it, though, it will tell you what house, what planet is where, when we cover these things, so you can at least be slightly informed. There are always links down below, right? Shameless plug, that if you want a deeper look at the astrology, if you want to be able to understand what I'm saying and really use it to better your life and see what's coming and know how to prepare, right? There are always links down below, right? I have services where I do readings for everybody, and you could book one of those if you want, right? I'm not pressuring any of you to do that. The free tools are always good enough, but those are always available for those of you that want that. But moving on with the week, right, there is a theme, right? Back to letting go, back to, purging and putting things down and release. There's a theme here for everybody, and it's relationships, right? This is going to be a relationship heavy week, and the reason we say this is because of Venus. But before we move on ahead, right, this about the letting go and about balancing, right, because all this stuff is happening mainly in Libra. So it's about balance. And a note on that balance is that this is not going to be a one and done type of week where it's, okay, I did the letting go, I'm done now, right? No. This is not about perfection, right? Perfection, honestly, is a lie. And you're not going to be able to get it perfectly balanced all the time. Like, the scales are fluid, the scales are in motion. It's about what's going on right now. It's about the here and now, not having everything perfectly aligned. That's not the goal of this. It's to have things back in order, try to have things back in balance, but not to be so perfectionist with it. And we'll get into this later, that you can't enjoy the moments. So let's get into the astrology then for the week. Sunday, Venus is going to move into Virgo, and this is the first time it's going to be changing signs since June. Now, Venus, and this is a big deal because Venus normally moves pretty fast, but it's been in retrograde, and just recently, September, went direct. So Venus in Virgo is said to be in its fall. Now, a sign in its fall is very uncomfortable and is kind of at its weakest, right? Signs have, just a quick aside, places where they're in their fall or when they're in their exaltation, most powerful, least powerful, where they're home, where they're most comfortable, a home sign, a ruled sign. And right now, Venus will be entering a sign of its fall, where it is most uncomfortable, where it is least prepared, where it doesn't like to be, where it's its opposite, right? Because Venus is mostly about fun and pleasure. But being in Virgo, Venus is more focused to be working on work and striving and success and moving, like things like that, where not that Venus is against those things, but that's not its normal modality. And being that Venus is here, right, it's possible to see things happen or themes around social problems, right? Or things that Venus rules on the world stage, or anything to do with art or beauty or food or money or feminine energies or the goddess energies or love or relationship energies can all come to the surface for each one of us personally, but also on the world stage. And Venus does work hard here, right? We've talked about this, that Venus in this sign isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it's not where Venus likes to be. And Venus here can put work ahead of pleasure, which could throw things out of balance, which this week, being things are happening in the sign of Libra with Mars and the South Node and all that, and the eclipses and all of that, balance is a major theme here. And we're going to have a lot of work ahead of us, right? We need to make sure that we balance things with sweetness and care, and maybe we need to shift things around instead of actually just severing them out completely. And maybe we just need to put them down and say, hey, let me put this worry down, let me put this anxiety down. I can always come back to it later. I can always come back to this situation or this person or this relationship or whatever it is that's on my mind and out of balance later, right? We don't have to deal with the problem now. We don't need to be extreme and sever it off cold turkey, but maybe just put it down. Maybe just set it aside as we evaluate ourselves and we get ready for these eclipses that are going to bring balance, or going to want to bring balance, or going to give us a paradigm shift that we need to be ready for. And maybe that will help. Maybe you don't need to be so extreme or so much with it if it's too much for us this week. Just be gentle with it and balance the sweetness with the productivity and see if that helps. Now, it's going to be a little bit of a back and forth week, to be honest. I mean, it's going to be good in the sense that it's a week about being honest and truthful to ourselves and those around us, but it's going to be, energy this week is very ping pong. It's very back and forth. And right, this is preparing us for the eclipse season, right? Acknowledging our shadows will help us get through these eclipses, right? And these eclipses are in Libra, and a Libra is all about relationships. Libra is all about balance, and Venus is here, and it's all about, working and getting things done, but we're not done yet, right? Venus being here is just bringing up these themes again, and it's been here since June, right? We've been working for a lot of 2023, most of the summer, now into the fall, on our relationships with Venus, and we're not done yet, right? And it doesn't have to be anything major, right? These can be minor adjustments. It could be major. It could be majorly shifting, right? These are big, heavy energies, but it could just be minor. It could just be, dusting off that shelf and moving that book, whether physically or more mentally or emotionally, putting down that worry and shifting these priorities, giving more time to this, less time to that. It could be simple little things. It doesn't need to be anything major or extreme. We don't need to go to extremes with this. Though it could be. For some of us, it could be major life-altering changes. And that's what eclipses bring. And that's what the South Node brings. Whatever we need to work on releasing and letting go so that we can move forward in balance and harmony again is what's going to come up for us. And you'll know, right? This isn't going to be like I wonder if that was it. No, you're going to know. It's going to make itself known to you. It's going to be all about rebalancing the scales and reviewing our lives. And so Wednesday, Mars will go up against the South Node. And this is the point of eclipses, one of the 2 points of eclipses. Also on Wednesday, Mercury will move into Libra. So this will have us talking about balance and justice and relationships and relationship dynamics and how do we handle our relationships and how do we channel our anger and our drive, right? Mars having that anger and that fire and that passion. How do we balance that so we honor ourselves and honor our anger or drive or passion or rightfulness without burning things up, without destroying everything, without setting the world ablaze at the same time, right? How do we balance and properly channel that fire where we honor ourselves, yet at the same time are making sure that we're in check and in balance and not on a rampage. Alright, so on Sunday, Mars will square Pluto, and this is going to feel like an issue or friction in the relationships that has to do with our power, right? Anything that would be lurking in the shadows, because Pluto rules that underworld. Pluto rules the shadows. It rules the things we can't see or don't want to touch or don't want to deal with, right? And this is going to be a great time to cleanse and sort and clean house and really treat this like a spring cleaning kind of week of prioritization and balance and putting things together and seeing where things need to go and what energies need to shift. And right, like you don't have to do it all at once, but it is a week that we need to start working on this shifting. Now Mars is an energy of action and decision that we touched on, and on Wednesday with that South Node, it might feel like our energy is changing directions, where Mars is usually forward moving action. It's going to shift itself, and Mars is going to be best channeled in a downward motion. Not that necessarily our energy will disappear from us or that we'll feel weak, although we could, right? Because the energy of our drive is becoming more eclipsed in a way because it's on an eclipse point, and its focus is being pushed more downward than outward. But really here, what it's going to be doing is being in a receptive mode where it's not going to be so much go, go, go anymore. Mars is going to pause. It's going to think. It's going to balance. It's going to evaluate. And how do we use that drive and that action and that decision making that Mars is good at? And how do we use the critical eye that Mars has and channel that energy into a receptive one, where we take a look at ourselves in our situations and see what's the best way to balance things, right? So this is going to very, very much feel like an eclipsey kind of week, but it's all about spring cleaning. It's all about balance, and it's all about balancing the scales and honoring and acknowledging our shadows so that when we go into the eclipses, we're ready for them. All right, that's the astrology of the week. Now let's go ahead and look over at the cards and see what Spirit has to say for us today. All right, so let's take a look at the cards for this week. Let's get 4 cards. I'm going to shuffle, connect to my guides and my team, see what messages we have for this week. As you've known, if you listen to the astrology update and if you've listened to the October monthly update, this is going to be a week of letting go and purging and rebalancing and restructuring. And this whole month is going to be about balance and relationships and taking care of ourselves and eclipses, and it's going to be an interesting month, that's for sure. But let's get the cards that we have here. We have the Hierophant in our energy position, the 4 of Cups in our known position, the 7 of Cups is back. This is in the unknown or unconscious position, kind of like the subterranean energies, and the 6 of Pentacles is in our outcome position. So let's get these all set up and then we'll go over each one and see what the overall message for the week is. Get them just right. All right, let's take a look at them. Okay, so let's see the theme that we have here. It honestly really matches. Let me just pull these guys down a little bit. It matches the astrology. If we're gonna go keywords on each of these cards, traditionally what they mean, but also I think there's a coloring here for this week as well based on what's going on. We have the Hierophant, which this card is all about tradition and elders and spirituality, possibly could be about religion. You have the Four of Cups here, which is about boredom and being unsatisfied and things like that. The Seven of Cups, which we've touched on recently, is about choice and illusion and confusion and being overwhelmed. In this card, the Six of Pentacles is about receiving and giving and good fortune and balance and karma and things like that. So when we put this reading all together, we have something quite simple. We have balance, we have perfectionism, we have choice and illusion, we have putting things on the table and evaluation, we have giving and receiving. I am going to pull one more card real quick just to clarify the Hierophant, just to see if I can get a better picture about what that card is representing for us this week. But I think I have the overall theme knocked down already. So let's just get one more card to clarify. Thank you so much. Four of Wands. Okay, so that's all about relationships. The Four of Wands can be about marriage. It is usually like a gateway or an archway card, but it is about happiness and celebration and friendship and relationships. So this is a relationship structure, or a relationship, like elders or like traditional relationships. So families, friendships, co-workers, things like that. That needs to be balanced. The relationship is our overall energy for the week. The known kind of goes with what we talked about earlier today with Venus, right? Venus being in Virgo, in the sign of its fall, right? It's going to put work ahead of play. And that's not normally Venus's style. Venus in Virgo is very thoughtful, very detail-oriented, very responsible, very practical, very down-to-earth and hardworking, and gets things done. Like, Venus in this sign is quite good. But at what expense? Venus in this sign is kind of like a workaholic. It doesn't know when to quit, or like when to stop, or when to take a break, or like when to, okay, we did our work, it's been 12 hours. Let's have some fun. Or why am I still working at 1 a.m. in the morning? I've been at this all day. Like, stop. And Venus is more about art and pleasure and beauty and like relaxation and like pleasure and sensual things. And like, it's not that Venus isn't a working sign, but it's not about the work, right? So here, this card is like alluding to what we talked about earlier with Venus in this sign. It's gonna bring up, this whole week is about balance. This whole week is about balance. This whole month is about balance. But this week specifically, with this Venus movement, with everything else that's being brought up from the underworlds and up to the surface to be evaluated, Venus has been in the sign of Leo since June. We've been doing the heavy relationship work around our creativity, around children, around play, because Leo is a fire sign. It's dramatic, it's theatrical, it's a sign of play, it's a sign of creativity, it's the sign ruled by the sun, so it's the sign of power, it's the sign of children even, So we've been doing the work there. Venus just got out of its retrograde in September. We're working with this, and now it's coming up against the points of the eclipses and the south nodes, and it's getting itself involved with that. So relationships are coming back up to the surface. And this doesn't necessarily have to be with other people. This could also be with yourself, right? This card here, the Four of Cups, the gentleman in the card, is unsatisfied with his work. He's got 3 beautiful cups in front of him, and his assistant, or whomever that is in the background right next to him, has a 4th one, right? There are 4 beautiful works there, but it's not good enough. It's not perfect enough. It's not done enough. And it will never be enough for this person. And that's the illusion that Venus in its fall needs us to understand. The balance between work and play. The balance between perfection and good enough. Because perfection is an illusion, right? You're never going to be able to reach the, I have all of my ducks in a row, absolutely perfect. The scales are balanced down to the micrometer. 1 grain of sand off. Like there's nothing wrong. It's perfect. You're never going to get the scales like that. And if you live like that, you're never going to have the pleasure. You're never going to have the satisfaction. You're never going to have the joy that your work should bring you until you learn to balance it. Right? It's all about the here and now. It's all about the lessons now. How can I get the scales balanced for me right now so that everything can work itself out? Because the scales are fluid. They're going to shift. One side's going to be heavier than the other, and it's going to continuously go. Kind of like the moon cycles, right? It never stays a full moon. It never stays a new moon. It's constantly in flux. And that's life, right? Life is constantly in flux. So this sign here, this card here, which is an unknown position. So this is the overarching energy that we're going to know, we're going to see, we're going to feel. It's going to be tangible. It's going to be real. We understand it, right? It's not hidden. It's not emotion. This is right in front of our faces. And whatever Virgo is for you in your chart will help color what Venus is going to be ruling over there for you. But it's definitely going to be about relationships for a lot of us, for most of us, really. But if you want to get specific, look at your chart, see where Virgo's at, because that's where Venus is going to be shedding the light on. See where Venus is in your birth chart as well, not just where Virgo is, like what house Virgo is, because the house of Virgo, wherever it's at, whether it's the 1st, 4th, 5th, 6th, will color the themes. But then wherever Venus is in your natal chart, say Virgo is your 4th house of home and family, but Venus is in your, your 10th house of career. So then in your birth chart, now that Venus is in Virgo, which I believe we just said was your 4th house of home and family, those things are going to be the major themes. But because Venus natally is in your 10th house, it's going to activate or bring over themes of work and career. So that's the overall theme for that card. Then we move on to the themes that we can't really necessarily see or feel because it's in the subconscious or the unknown, or like it's just in the underbelly or the underworld or undercurrent, under the water. Right, and that's the 7 of Cups, which we've touched on already with the monthly reading. And here it is again. It's choice, it's illusion, it's not delusion, it could be delusion. But this card is all about putting the things on the table, right? This week, I think this card is about, okay, let's put everything that we're working on, everything that's come up right here in front of us so we can see it. Now, you might not actually be able to see it because it's in the unknown position. But this is more of an emotion. This is more of a feeling. This is more of an intuition of, okay, these are all the emotional things that we're going through. These are all the feelings or themes around our relationships, around our unbalanced perfections, around all of our situations that's going on with relationships and whatever else themes is going on in your life. And how do we pick and choose? How do we move forward? What do we need to put down? What do we need to let go? Even if it's just temporarily. How do we restructure things? And what do we move forward with? And that could be confusion. That could be hard, right? That could be tense even. Like the astrology this week is gonna be tense is a little much, but I mean, it very well could be. It's Mars, it's Pluto. You know, we're going over the eclipse points, we're going over the south node. There's a lot of letting go here. And cups are all about emotion, right? We have 2 cups in a row. This is about emotion, about intuition, about feeling, about psychic ability and awareness, and just the inward worlds. You know, very goddess energy, very perceptive energy, very, you know, introvert and inward and reflective, and, you know, very inward energy that we're dealing with this week. This is not a very outward week, right? Mars, who's normally a very outwardly driven planet, has turned inward this week. Mars is very focusing its energy in reception and not action, in contemplation and not drive. So we need to channel that Mars energy, and we need to work with what Venus is showing us and use that drive and action and ambition and decision and choice and go of Mars, and parse together and look through and see what needs to be cut, what needs to be severed by Mars's sword, what needs to be put down and never picked back up, or let's not go so extreme, what just needs to be shuffled around, or what just needs to be put down for like a hot minute so we can figure everything else out. Because if we're carrying this worry over here, our hands are kind of full and we can't really take care of everything else. So let's put that down for just a second. Take a look at all of the cups in front of us, all of the things that we're looking at, whether it's choices or, you know, illusions or fears or worries or anxieties, or it might not even be bad things. Maybe it's good things. Maybe it's relationships. Maybe it's people. Maybe it's situations. It's jobs. It's careers. You know, it's financial situations. It's whatever, right, is going on for you. They need to be looked at. Then they need to be looked at with a perceptive eye, with a psychic eye, with the touch of the moon and the touch of, you know, intuition and emotion and feeling. This is not a thinking through problem. This is a feeling through problem. And how do we get through that? And then our outcome for the week is the 6 of Pentacles. Now, this is a card of karma, of balance, right? This is a card where there's a witch in the center who's giving to other people because she has enough and she's blessed enough to have these things that she can give forward. This is a card about giving and receiving, right? You have enough, so you give enough, but you also receive, right? It's not one way. This card is trying to teach us that life isn't one way, right? Do good for others and good things should be done to you, right? Is kind of the vibe. It's kind of that good karma energy, this card, about receiving and giving out blessings. And it doesn't necessarily have to be money. It could be time, it could be energy, it could be thought, it could be love. You can give in so many ways. It could just be spending time with loved ones. You know, it could just be honoring the relationships that honor you. But that's the thing, is it's about balance. It's about receiving as well, not just giving to give, but also receiving and making sure that we have the equilibrium with us this week. This week, if we could sum it up in one word, is equilibrium, is balance, is review. It's just making sure that everything is prepared, that maybe we don't get everything done this week. That's kind of not the point. The point isn't to get everything done this week in terms of whatever comes up, but it is to acknowledge it, it is to honor it, and it is to try your best to balance it. Because when we go into eclipse season, which is this month, right, it's starting the 14th with the solar eclipse. Mars is already touching the eclipse points, so it really kind of already has started, right? This is the pre-game to the eclipses. So if we can honor ourselves here, we can honor the shadow and whatever Pluto brings up with the shadows later this week on Saturday or Sunday with Mars, and then Venus moving into the new sign, right? This weekend is going to bring up a lot of stuff where, you know, from Wednesday on, where we need to do some evaluating, and we need to do some balancing, and we need to, at minimum, acknowledge our shadows, acknowledge, yeah, maybe that needs to be reevaluated. Or maybe, yeah, I should probably put down that worry for just a second. Like, okay, maybe I'm not severing it. Maybe I'm not getting rid of it because maybe that's too anxious for me. Or maybe it's too much. It's too much work to do all at once. Right? This week isn't about overwhelming ourselves. This week is about acknowledging that, okay, this probably should be taken care of because the eclipses are going to hit me pretty hard if I don't. So let me just put this down for a second, and I can always pick it back up, but just for a second. Or maybe it doesn't need to be a full-on house cleansing, you know. Maybe it just needs to be, well, maybe we move this over here and this can come down here, and maybe we give a little bit more time to that and a little less time to this, and okay, we're good. Right? Like, it doesn't have to be this extreme spring cleaning of our lives and selves. Maybe you just need to dust a couple shelves and move one book over there, you know, like, and oh, now the energy's flowing again, you know, like, it could be simple. So that's the astrology for the week. This is the cards for the week, the message from Spirit. It's all about equilibrium. It's all about balance. It's all about making sure things are swimming smoothly and our relationships are doing well. And yeah, that's it. That's the week. So thank you so much for coming. Thank you so much for checking out my video. There'll be links down below, as always, for the cards, for birth charts, for personal readings, etc. All linked down below. If the message resonated with you, please leave a like. It helps me know that everything's working with all of you, and it helps YouTube recommend the channel and the videos out to more people so they can hear the message. Until next week, or whenever the next video, thank you so much for coming, and I'll see you then. Bye.